Mage is a interesting class, to say the least. I think that Mage is probably the most poorly designed class in Hearthstone, both in Standard and in Wild. It's pretty clear as to why, if you just paid attention to the last, I don't know, 3, 4 years of expansions, Mage doesn't get playable cards. Like, you look through Whizbang, all these cards are bad, or they say random on them, and that's their only way they can do anything. This is a random card. Random, random, random. You look at, Showdown. Oh, more random. You have, I mean, I guess technically these aren't more random cards, but these synergize with the random cards, right? Like, this is a random card that isn't even used. It's only used off of, like, 10 tentacles, and, like, this was not really a mage card. But look at Titans. Oh my gosh, you have Sif, which is, yeah, Sif is a really cool concept for Mage. You have the Rainbow Mage stuff, but who cares? It already got nerfed, and it's probably never going to get unnerfed after what they fucking did. Festival of Legends, oh my gosh, random, random, so much more random. It's like the entire concept of Mage in Wild is strictly tied to the fact that all they do is print Casino Mage cards, and every other card that's not a Casino Mage card is pretty terrible. Like, yeah, Sif as a Titans card is pretty good, but Sif wouldn't work if it weren't for all the random generation to be able to make it work. So I want to, talk about maybe 6 to 8 wild like cards that I think should be changed, positively and negatively. And of course, it's going to be, Ice Block and Solid Ally are going to be on this list, but obviously they're going to be. Now, for Solid Alibi, I really don't think it should be 3 mana. I think that it should say, once per game, and it should go back to 2 mana. Like, I think Solid Alibi at 2 mana with once per game is very fair as a card. Obviously, it's strictly worse than Ice Block otherwise. At 3 mana, it's pretty much unplayable, even in Wild, like, even when you can use it once per game. But I think at 2 mana, once per game, and of course, the one that everyone knows is Ice Block to once per game. It's just no one enjoys when a quest mage or like any mage whatsoever can play 11 ice blocks in a row. That really did happen to me. This is a little sidetrack, but yeah, my opponent played 4 ice blocks, as you can see here, 3, and then that's created by Rewind, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 turns in a row of ice block. Yeah, we definitely need this to go to once per game. It's just so disgusting. It's so anti-fun, and it kind of makes it so Blizzard can't really print any playable mage cards because Ice Block is just the best card in the game. So if you want mage to be playable, they can't have cards because of Ice Block. It's just so strong. There's a reason it got Hall of Famed because it just completely made it impossible to design mage cards because this card was so broken. Another card that I think should be changed is Jandis Barov. This is a incredibly powerful mage minion. It's 5 mana originally. I think it should go to 4 mana. 2/1, summon 2 5 cost minions, secretly pick one that dies when it takes damage, yada yada. This is an incredibly powerful minion. It gives Mage a lot of tempo and lets you actually want to build towards minions in your deck rather than just like, okay, I only run minions that go to my quest and I don't actually play towards any other things that Mage can do. You used to have Tempo Mage, you used to have Secret Mage, but you can't play those anymore because, well, they got gutted and they haven't gotten any support. I think that Jandis going to 4 really pushes, Reno Mage as a regular deck, not Quest Mage. It makes you want to play a kind of Tempo Mage. You can play Jandis in Even Mage, which is also a pretty popular deck in the past. I just think that something about Jandis should be buffed. It's a very iconic card. It's really powerful, and it would give Mage a lot more identity. Another change I saw floating around was to change Ignite to deal 2 damage, shuffle, and Ignite into your deck at the end of your turn. At the end of your turn, that deals 1 more damage. It would still functionally be the same in basically every single deck except for Ignite Mage. And this actually rolls into the next card I want to talk about. I think Sorcerer's Apprentice should go back to 2 mana. If you remove Ignite, it's not actually that threatening. It's going to be on the same power level as Radiant Elemental, and actually probably worse in a lot of scenarios. Radiant Elemental is incredibly broken, and I think that Sorcerer's Apprentice could go back to 2 mana with a solid Alibi nerf, with an Ice Block nerf, especially with, and obviously with an Ignite nerf. You need the Ignite nerf if you want Sorcerer's Apprentice to be doable at 2 mana again. And I gotta say, you have to revert Cabal Lackey. You can't say that you want there to be deck diversity in this video game and then say you don't want Secret Mage to be playable, because not only is Secret Mage not a good deck, it's pretty bad 99% of the time, but when it is good, it's because it's farming really, really toxic for the deck or for the game decks, which have been running rampant lately, and we kind of do need Secret Mage as a deck back. It is incredibly disgusting into Miracle decks. It just utterly smashes things like, Reno Druid, and we desperately need this deck back. So I think Cabal Lackey going back to your next secret cost 0 is kind of the only way you can do it. But I think we should have to change Rigged Fair Game, because that's mainly the reason why Cabal Lackey was so disgusting and needed a nerf. I think that changing Rigged Fair Game to always drawing 2, however, it's drawing 2 rather than drawing 3, is a lot more fair. It's similar to Arcane Intellect, yes, but it has the secret synergies, so it costs 0 still. It's, yes, weaker than current Rigged Fair Game, which it needs to be, because Rigged Fair Game is definitely an issue, and it also again limits, burn being printed for Mage because of, the fact that this card exists. I think that removing the needing to take damage portion of the card definitely takes away the identity of the card, but does that matter? I feel like people would rather actually just be able to play Mage as a class rather than just playing Casino Simulator, and that's what I'm doing. I'm spitballing ways to make Mage as a class more playable, and I think that starting is, changing, groups of cards that have negative interactions player sentiment wise, such as Cabal Lackey Rigged Fair Games, such as, no one wants Sorcerer's Apprentice with Ignite as is back in the game. And one I really think that we should do is turning Kel'Thuzad into a 6 mana minion. In Wild, I mean, currently 8 mana Kel'Thuzad is completely and utterly unplayable. However, Skeleton's Mage offers a sort of, tempo-ish mage deck that you can play. Would it be good? Probably not. All things considered, probably wouldn't even be good with 6 mana Kel'Thuzad. However, I think that changing Kel'Thuzad to 6 mana really does let you play this, Skeleton Mage deck, which people are very fond of. It's actually really fun and cool to watch. I've seen lists that even though it sucks, it just is so much more interesting than anything else Mage can do. You can play like Tempo Mage using skeletons, and I think that that is something that we should be pushing Wild towards. Tempo Mage rather than Quest Mage, but that's just me, I guess. If Blizzard thinks Quest Mage is healthy for the game, they think Quest Mage is healthy for the game, but no one likes playing against Ice Block, and it's gotten to the point that people are like genuinely so upset at this game they don't want to play. So I think you could take Wildfire in two directions. You could either go back to 2 mana where it originally was, or you could genuinely go to 0 mana. I think that either of those options are relatively fair. It just comes down to how much do you want to push Even Mage. Even Mage at when Wildfire was at 2 mana was already a pretty decent like niche deck that you could play. It wasn't amazing. It mainly just relied entirely on Reckless Apprentice as like the best card in your deck by far, which would be nice. But I think that it is fair that you could make an argument to put Wildfire at 0 mana. It makes regular like non even Hero Power Mage better, and you could play it like that. Or you can play, only Even Mage using 0 mana to buff your Hero Power. It would be really, really strong, and I think that that's something that is worth testing. But 2 mana is a lot more conservative. It's where it was before. A lot of people are upset that this didn't get reverted. They already showed with the Order in the Court change, they would do things for player sentiment, like not revert cards that, but I don't know, not reverting Wildfire feels incredibly wrong, and it just is like taking away something fun for players to do. So I think, reverting it or buffing it to 0 mana is just the only thing you can do. It gives Mage actually playable cards, and that's kind of the thing about Mage is that Mage just has so many atrociously terrible cards that the best mage cards just make it so you can get mage cards that cost less. That's how good those cards are. Because every mage card is like ultra expensive for a bad effect. So what if you just bundle it together and make it cheaper so you can get an okay effect, which is Casino Mage and Quest Mage. Yeah, these are the reasons why Mage is so degenerate and wild. It's just so not fun to play against. I believe that these, however many, I'm not even sure how many cards I listed off. I think that these would really make Mage a lot more of a playable class in Wild without making it too strong, and it definitely has some nerfs that the class desperately needs as well. All right. If you enjoy, like, comment, subscribe, tell me anything about it below. Did I get anything right? Did I get anything wrong? Do you think that there's any other cards that should desperately be changed? I think that these are pretty good for a direction that Mage could go. Gives you a lot of options towards different Mage decks, but I mean, Mage used to be one of my favorite classes, but it's just like what am I doing, right? There's just nothing fun about it in this format. There hasn't been anything fun about it in Standard in years. I mean, since it's just not been a cool or interesting class since Scholomance. That's just a fact. But yeah, peace.